Hello, and welcome in to another episode of the 3-to-1 podcast. I am your host, Coach Mac, and with me today we have another awesome guest. We have Stanley Franks. Stanley is currently the Nichols coach and defensive quality control at Washington State University. He has coached at a variety of places and played a variety of places. He's coached up in Canada, played up in Canada, and then also played right down the road here in Moscow, Idaho, at Idaho University. Stan is an awesome coach and individual to impact young people, and I'm so excited to have him on the podcast today. So, my man Stan, how you doing today?
I'm good. I'm good. I appreciate all those kind words, coming from you, man. Appreciate it.
Oh yeah, it's very true. All right, before we get rolling, I want to know. So, how long did you live up in Canada for?
Well, playing, it was about 3 to 4 years, and then went back there coaching and lived there about 2 to 3 years as well. So,
Okay, so it was about six years, 7 years.
yeah.
All right, what's the thing you missed the most from living up north?
Missed the most. Hmm. Um, I'll say maybe some of the food and just the downtown environment, like Gaslamp, Vancouver. I mean Granville Street, sorry, Vancouver. Like was really nice, lively. Always something to do down there. So just probably the environment and the food.
What's different of the food there compared to?
Well, you got your poutines, which I've come accustomed to really liking. The fries with the gravy and the cheese curds and everything like that. You can soup it up with the bacon and whatever else you want on there. Montreal has a pretty solid one where you can put the street meat on there, and it's a nice, good, solid poutine for you. But yeah, that's just one of the things. And then, even back Toronto area, they have pretty good East Indian food, which I've gone accustomed to liking and stuff. Your patties and your jerk chicken and all that stuff, which is pretty solid.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. Like I was telling you earlier, I can't wait. I want to go up there this summer with the wife and check it out because I've never been to Canada. So hopefully all this calms down, the border opens up, and we can go up there. Okay, growing up, I know you grew up in California. Talk us through kind of growing up in. Did you grow up in LA?
Grew up I was born in Long Beach, California, and
Okay.
pretty much raised in Downey. And Downey went to Downey High School. Very shortly after that, ended up going back to Long Beach to go play JUCO ball there. So pretty much Southern Cal,
Your
Long Beach area.
whole life. Okay.
Yep.
All right, growing up and going into high school, were you just a stud? You know, you a stud
Well,
at Downey High School?
Well, I wouldn't say all that, but it was, it was sports. Growing up playing Pop Warner, being blessed enough to be, coached by my pops and stuff. His passion for it and everything. But yeah, my school and growing up always surrounded around sports, so it kind of came natural and kept me out of trouble and stuff for the most part. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that was definitely my outlet.
I gotcha. What was it like playing for your dad and being coached by your dad?
It was cool. I like that he didn't, he wasn't the typical, the favoritism as a son and stuff. He was probably, the toughest on me and my biggest critic and stuff, but did it in a loving way and kept me motivated, kept me hungry and just through Pop Warner and stuff. But it was fun and was part of some pretty special teams and stuff growing up, Pop Warner wise. But it really showed me, the passion for coaching and how, it's love through that and it teaches you life lessons.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You said you were a part of a special Pop Warner team. You want to expand on that a little bit?
Well, I played for, we were the was it the Cerrito, I believe it was the Cerrito Steelers. But yeah, we, had some pretty nice unis that, that were the gold and black, like the Pittsburgh Steelers. And we would do the little 7-on. Well, it wasn't the 7-on back then, but it was like the punt, pass, and kick teams, the travel teams,
Mm-hmm.
pretty much had the best guys from the Pop Warner and the coaches stayed with us. It would go midget, junior midget, and all that stuff. They stayed with us going up each level. So we had some pretty good teams back there that was competitive and had a little swag to them.
That is cool. So you basically had the same coaches from, I don't know, what grade was that? Like third grade?
around third or fourth year. I originally couldn't play Pop Warner, which they would call it, because I couldn't weigh enough. I didn't weigh enough. So, I was a little guy, struggled with that my whole career, being a little guy. So I had to, play flag at the started out through the middle school or whatever, playing flag, and then I eventually was able to play Pop Warner once I made weight and stuff. So got a little bit late start at it, but it was fun.
Man, I don't know if I can envision you as a little guy. You're all buffed up now. You're all into it.
Nah.
Your workouts every morning.
Grown man weight now.
Okay. So like going into high school, I'm assuming you were athletic. Did you play basketball and some other sports too?
Yeah, I played basketball, ran track. I wouldn't say I was extremely dedicated to it. Did it more for the, festivities that the track brings. But yeah, basketball is really fun for me. I did take that a lot more serious. But football is my main sport that I, invested most of my time into.
Mm-hmm. Did you go into high school? Has your dream always been to go play college ball? Professionally, was that always your dream, or did that kind of start, as you started to have more and more success, or, where did the dream for that come from?
I think, yeah, it kind of became like that was more a realistic goal, probably going into high school, my freshman year. Had a couple guys that, knew from the surrounding area, just some names that had made it, into college ball, got a scholarship, having pretty good career. So you had those guys to look up to, and pretty much gave you something to grab on to and something that was tangible that you could actually accomplish. So it was good. And I just knew if I kept putting in work, I would get a shot eventually. So that's what it all came down to, trying to perfect, my craft at that time, putting in extra work, staying out of trouble, running with the knuckleheads and stuff. But it was definitely accomplishing.
I got you. All right. So now you're in high school. You're having some success. Did what positions were you playing in high school?
I actually played quarterback.
Quarterback's there.
Yeah, yeah, quarterback, and played that my freshman year. And then, was blessed enough to move up to varsity, sophomore, and played quarterback there. And then on defense, played a little bit of free safety. But yeah, it was quarterback, and it was, obviously running offense, but I had a, actually arm throwing as well. I like to compare myself to, the Seneca Wallace back in the day, but I don't know if that's saying much, but yeah, played quarterback.
Okay. Mr. Quarterback. So when did you start getting in like recruiting letters? When did the recruiting process start for you? It's different for everybody, but when did, you had this goal, you're trying to accomplish it. When did all like that kind of start to come in, fruition for you?
I'll say probably my junior year or so when I started receiving letters to, it wasn't any big time schools or anything like that, but smaller schools, and just seeing the interest of coaches. And then, our head coach was Coach Word, but it was a guy named Jack Williams, who I played with his brother as well. He was on the team, and he was actually, I believe he was on the Oakland Raiders at that time, and he just had finished up at BYU and stuff. And he was really essential in helping me get out and, pushing me, putting in extra work and stuff. So that's pretty much when it started junior year, getting a little bit of recognition and everything.
I gotcha. So coming out of high school, you go to junior college. Why did you decide to go to the junior college route?
Well, I don't think it's quite decide, but just got into a little bit of trouble that set me back a little bit. But it was a great learning experience, and I don't regret anything that happened or anything like that. But it just kind of made a couple coaches fall off real quick. Obviously, they didn't want trouble or anything off the field. So, and then the option that I ended up having left, I just felt I was a little bit better then. So, pretty much ended up going to junior college route from there.
Okay. We don't have to talk about the trouble if you don't want to talk about it. But so you go to Long Beach City. I think people, that aren't in the coaching profession or around, college athletics don't quite understand the junior college, system, and especially in California, what it's all about. But, now they see Last Chance U, and they see, not crazy, but like good coaches who are hard and yelling and and screaming a lot. But what was playing at Long Beach City for you? Because in California, junior college ball is a big deal, but it is hard on athletes. There are no dorms. There are no scholarships. Basically, it's, you're just there to play and then hopefully get out. So what was that whole experience for you like?
Like you said, the resources are not there as a junior college football player, and even I feel some of these, I joke with a couple cats, those Arizona schools and stuff where you have the dorms and you have scholarship to JUCOs now. That's not the case in Southern California. The majority of them, at least, you had the saddlebacks and stuff like that, and the Mount Sacks where they had the facilities and the housing and stuff, but it's a struggle. You got to be self-motivated. It's all about, from school to making sure you're lined up with the academics that you need to get into college at the next level. If you weren't a qualifier coming out of high school, and then also just, it's a choice. Everything's a choice now. You're a grown man, so to say. I was fortunate enough to get out of the house and then really grow up a little bit. But you want to come to practice, that's on you. Yeah, the coach, depending on your relationship and stuff, will call and hassle you. But it's the norm if a guy misses because he's at work and show up on Friday or something like that, to practice. So it's just you got to be self-sufficient and you got to be ready to grind, put in extra time, and everything you do, everything you get out of it is what obviously going to put into it. So it can be a tricky time in your life where you can easily fall into the wrong situations, or just do something to set yourself back because you don't see the bigger picture and the bigger goal of the situation. But
I got you. I got you. It's very well said. Who was your head coach at Long Beach?
the famous Jerry Jaso at that time, he was the Long Beach Poly head coach that won those championships and got had all those guys going to SC and the big names coming out of Cal Poly. So he was the coach. He had stepped down from Long Beach Poly and was head coach at Long Beach City College then. So yeah, Jerry Jaso.
Okay. What's like one of the biggest things you learned? Obviously, he was a successful coach. What was one of the biggest things you learned from him?
I would just say like details, and I actually played receiver in JUCO, and he was the OC and stuff, and from a guy named Neo too, who's receivers coach, solid cat. I just learned how to, relationship wise, how you got to be able to trust guys and just paying attention to the details. Those were the big things, and putting in work and perfecting your craft and everything
Mm-hmm.
from those guys.
Okay, I love it. Do you have a favorite story? A junior college, at least guys I know and I've played with, talking about some of the JC stories and just listen to them. They're amazing and just funny and but and now one of my best friends who's actually been on the podcast is the head coach, Alan Hancock, and he tells me stories all the time about just different things they go through and just experiences. So do you have a favorite memory / experience from playing at a JC for 2 years?
I'll say, getting to a bowl game, that was pretty exciting. I forget who even played, but it was just, a big time atmosphere. That's when the vet, it was sold out and not sold out, but it was pretty heavily packed with, the entries we were winning, being in the, they used to call it the press telegram, being one of the top athletes in there and stuff. But JUCO, it was more some, the crazy story stuff that like to this day, you're like, what the hell is going on? Yeah, from players fighting coaches to side breaks, a lot of things going on, but it was probably more the off the wall type stuff that you remember. Life.
I love it. And I bet it was a fun time though. I bet you grew up and learned a lot during that time. So, all right, you're done. Did you get your AA and got your grades good?
Yeah.
Got your AA. So, what was the recruiting process like coming out of JC this time?
Well, it was it's a little better, a couple more options. Like I said, I was actually playing receiver.
Mm-hmm.
And, at the time I was still, that's one of the perks of JUCO. You can write down your height and weight, pretty much. So I think I was like 5'11", 185 on paper, which was the furthest thing from the truth, which probably, now looking back at it, some of those coaches coming in there, actually to speak with was probably, highly disappointed, when I walked into the office and stuff. But but I had a couple coaches named by Johnny Nasson. He stuck with me. He was originally like at Idaho State, and then he ended up going to University of Idaho, and he just kind of stuck with me through the whole process, even out of high school and stuff. So I ended up the home visit was great. Nasson, I messed around. He could sell water to a fish, and the home visit was solid. So I ended up committing to the University of Idaho. And I also wanted an opportunity where, I knew I could get on the field right away. Knowing that I didn't have too many years to waste or anything, sitting behind someone, not so much with talent, but, just the politics and stuff that go into it as well. And so I wanted to go somewhere where I could play right away and be an impact player too,
I got you. You can sell water to a fish. That's a good line right there. So that's a good one.
Hey, no, that if you ever met Coach Nass, he got that what we call that mouthpiece, so he'll sell it to you. But yeah,
I love it. That's awesome. So you decided to sign with the University of Idaho. For those who don't know, University of Idaho is in Moscow, Idaho. It's right on the border of Washington, Idaho. Back in those days when you were playing, they were in the WAC, the Western Athletic Conference,
yep.
which disbanded, but is actually coming back. It's they're going to be there. You guys were FBS school, right?
Yeah, D1. Yep.
Yeah, they're FBS D1. They're coming back now as an FCS school, FCS for football now, but they're coming back. So, what was it like? Was this your first time out of California?
Yeah, it definitely was. Besides, I had been up to Washington area, Tacoma, visiting my uncle and stuff a little bit. But that definitely the furthest I've been away from home up until that point. And yeah, it was my first year there. It was culture shock to say the least. Small town vibe. Everyone, you stick out like a sore thumb. Everyone knows who you are, or why you're there, so to say. So it was, it took a little adjustment, and you had to learn how to maneuver and get around and stuff from there. But it was definitely a big little adjustment for me.
For sure. Who was your head coach?
Recruited me there. Besides Johnny Nancy, it was Coach Hope. And then he ended up leaving. I'm not sure where Coach Hope went. I want to say he went to SC. Ended up leaving, and then Coach the great legendary, Dennis Erickson came in. He ended up leaving right after that season as well, going to Arizona State, I believe it was. He ended up going, and then I ended with Coach Rob Akey, which three big name coaches that's top of the line guys, especially Coach Erickson and Akey. But yeah, and I'm going to three coaches in 2 years, which is crazy.
That is crazy. So you get there, you're all excited, you think you're going to play receiver. How did the whole switch to defensive back come about, and who brought that to you first, and how'd you feel about it?
I think it started out, now looking back at it, it's either I wasn't good enough for a receiver or it was just, maybe what they told me, which was my mentality was a little more geared towards the defensive side of the ball. And it just started there, getting there in summer and, just competing through the, the running and the weightlifting and stuff. And, I was probably a little, more of a knucklehead back then, more outspoken and just loud, that typical guy on the field, which you got to have, somewhat of ego on the field and stuff. But, that's how it was sold to me, that my personality and my aggressiveness was more geared towards defensive side of the ball. So one of those two are true. I was good enough for a receiver, or it was the case. So yeah,
I got you. It's hard to imagine, Stan being loud and obnoxious. That's not who you are at all. Now it's like pulling teeth getting you to talk sometimes. But that's awesome. And so you moved to DB and you had some success. Do you remember playing your first game? Who did you play against? Do you remember?
No.
Okay.
Maybe it was SC. I believe we might have opened up in SC my junior year.
Okay.
Maybe. Yeah.
Did you start? Were you playing?
Yeah, I was starting. And I think that was part of the selling factor too. I just wanted to get on the field. I didn't really care where it was at on the field. And speaking with some people around me, it was DB was not the easiest way, but the way to get to the league, the guys that, had the longevity in careers and stuff, the next level and all that. So listen to that. But I'm not sure, but I do remember, obviously going to the Coliseum, growing up, Trojan fan and all that, and having your family there, needed numbers of tickets that game. So, being back at the crib, nothing like it. But yeah.
How'd you play?
I did all right. Different. That's when I recognized there was different levels to it. Seeing those guys, even in warm-ups, they're, they're DNs looking like, the receivers looking like DNs, and you've seen the difference in levels of football. And just from raw strength and weightlifting, that's when I bought into Muscle Milk. Those guys seeing all the Muscle Milk banners around there. I'm like, I need to get on Muscle Milk. But it was fun, end up having a pretty good junior year, end up leading the nation, whether it's a pass happy whack and being in that league, had plenty of opportunities. So it was a good junior year that, where it was fun and, riding that wave from there.
So you said you led the nation. What'd you lead the nation in? For our listeners who don't know.
Huh?
For our listeners who don't know, what'd you lead the nation in?
Oh, interceptions. Yeah.
How many did you have?
I go up every year that someone asks me. So I think I had about 13 or 14 or so. But yeah, it's around 10 or so, 10 or 11. But yeah.
Still, that's impressive right there. That's impressive.
Yeah, we also played, like I said, the pass happy whack at that time where everyone was the Hawaii of, throwing the ball around the yard. So it was all good.
Hey, you still got to catch them, So
that's true.
Don't be downplaying yourself right now.
Nah. I remember the ones I dropped the most. Those the ones that I remember. That like, could have been amazing.
I got you. So you had a good senior year. I'm assuming you had a good junior year. Was your senior year kind of the same? Do you have a successful senior year as well?
I think it was a decent. Whether it was people weren't attacking me as well, and maybe just leaving the hype a little bit too much. A couple balls slipped through my hand senior year, and so on paper it wasn't as good of a year, as my junior year and stuff. But it was still competitive. Team got a little bit better, and you can see we're getting ready to take that next step to being competitive and everything. But again, came in with a new defensive coordinator, new cornerback coach. So you had to learn different techniques and new system. But it was a solid year as well.
I got you. All right, so your playing days are over. Are you ready to get out of Moscow, Idaho?
Oh yeah, I'm out of there. I'm ready to go back to the house and start training for for the pro day and stuff like that. And yeah, I want to go get back home as soon as possible.
Okay, so you go into training for your. Did you do your pro day at Idaho, or did you go somewhere else to do it?
No, I did my pro day at Idaho.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up training back at Long Beach City. There was a guy named John Hall who was he was a good track coach. Ran track for UCLA. Coached there back in the day. Worked out with him. We got a nice group of guys and stuff that we would train at the vet with. So got in the best shape. Came back for the pro day. Put up some pretty solid numbers and stuff. And yeah, I think it was success, but it was fun.
What did you run? What was your 40?
I run a 4.3 something. On the low end of 4.3. But I think the vert was pretty good, 40 or so, and lacked on the bench press and stuff, but about 8 to 10 reps. But the training had paid off. When you're able to train that whole time for something, and that's your mindset. You hope to see results and stuff.
Mm-hmm. A low 4.3. Come on, don't act like you don't remember exactly what that 4.3 was right now.
It was 4.3 too.
See, just say you ran a 4.3.
Everybody runs that nowadays, though, man. Everybody runs a 4.3 nowadays.
No, you have it's official on a pro day. Go look you up. That's official.
Yeah, there you go.
That's official. Okay, so you ran your pro day. What opportunities did you have? After that, and just kind of leading into NFL draft, and what happened during that whole process.
Yeah, it was a couple free agent opportunities. I believe it was the Colts and the Browns and maybe a couple other teams I can't think of, and then all the San Diego Chargers, which I ended up choosing at the time to go free agent to. And just being young, naive, it's 2 hours away from the house. I could drive there, obviously, with the family and stuff. But, I failed to take a peek at the roster, knowing they had drafted a corner in the first round, drafted another corner in the third round, which is, obviously they had Camardi, they had Jammer at that time, so it was more, I probably should have took one of those other opportunities, maybe in Indianapolis or with the Browns. But, like anything, it was a learning experience, and it was a great experience being there, being that close to home, and, a team you grow up, see playing and stuff, being right in your backyard. So it was fun from that perspective.
Yeah, I bet it was. I bet you. How long were you there for?
A coffee break. Yeah, and I am prepared for the first or second preseason. But
Hey, I bet you learned a lot during that time though, because
oh yeah, yeah.
that's still a couple of weeks, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. It was a
That's
couple
not
of weeks.
long. Yeah, yeah. I bet you learned a ton.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
so I'm assuming you got cut.
Yes, got cut from there. Um, yeah, obviously was not that I was surprised or anything, but you learn a lot like going into the business. Just the not even the perks, but the value of being drafted as a player for one. The head start that those guys get, and just the detail. Their money's invested, so they're going to set them up to do everything they can to succeed.
Mhm.
Versus a free agent, which you're getting a signing bonus, which is chump change compared to obviously a drafted player and stuff. So you learn from that side of the business. Where it most likely doesn't always come down to player skill. That's just things I tell guys nowadays. That's why the importance of drafting and make sure you come out at the right time and stuff. Is critical and crucial, so to say. But it was a great learning experience. Again, I saw the different in levels. Why is obviously was the National Football League, and those type of monsters and guys freakishly. Like I remember seeing Antonio Cromartie, freaking six and moving like me, and just how he bent corners on the kick return, like he was striding running 200, so it was just obviously using the NFL at a different level to it.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. I bet that was awesome. And it's something you can, like you just said, that you use to teach your own players now and help them and get them to understand, just the importance, how the level is just different there. Um, so how'd you end up in Canada?
Well, I got cut from there. It's crazy. I ended up picking up a job my boy had told me about at the time. It was a Wells Fargo credit manager. And I ended up doing that. You had to come in the office suited and booted every day. The money was pretty decent though. For that time coming out,
Mhm.
like $30 an hour or something like that. So
Dang.
I didn't mind paydays. They're doing all right, but obviously was miserable. Missing the game, and it just wasn't a 9 to 5 type of cat. So I ended up quitting there and going take an opportunity to play with the Spokane Shock, which was the Arena Football League back then. And
Mhm.
yeah, that was probably one of the best decisions that I made. A guy named Ryan Rigg made it. He was the GM at that time, and kind of big time him to start out with. Like who are you guys calling me? But ended up being one of the best decisions I made. You know.
Arena ball, man. Arena ball. I used to love it growing up watching it because it just looked so fun. Like it was just everything about football was there, and it was just smaller, and you just got to run around. Guys were wearing basketball shoes, like not wearing real cleats and stuff. Like it was. I just remember watching it. Like, it's awesome. So what was it like? Playing in the Arena League, and I'm assuming you lived in Spokane.
Yeah. It
What?
was
What?
it
what?
would be, and being in Spokane, they you would have thought we were playing for the Seattle Seahawks or something. The way they treat us out there, and the stadium was packed. We were pulling up, getting to the club like, and we're talking in Little Spokane, bottle service and all this stuff. We were living life for that year, like, like we were those guys, and we were making, I think it was something like 250 a week, which was crazy. But I don't know how we were living life. They paid for the housing and all that stuff, but we ended up joining, a hell of a team. The year before they lost the last game of the championship, and then we ended up going. Did we go? Yeah, we ended up going undefeated, and then ended up winning the championship. The 2009 year that I was there, so it was we had a great group of guys on that team, and yeah, it was a solid team at all.
That's awesome. Where did you guys play in Spokane?
In the Spokane Arena, is where the Chiefs play at. It was pretty obviously it was the hockey and the indoor football arena.
I
So yeah,
got you. Okay.
right there downtown, right in the heart of downtown.
Man, I bet that was fun though. Like,
It was it was some of the best time of my life, just living life and not really, if you know anything about the arena football, you practice for maybe 2 hours and then, what are you doing the rest of the day? You're not really doing too much, might go home for film study, have a meeting, but then, you're pretty much on your own throughout the rest of the day. So it was, yeah, we were living life on both ends, to say the least.
That's awesome. That's awesome. We'll talk about that more. Maybe part two. Maybe part two. We'll just dive into arena football and just kind of
There we go. There we go.
back to glory days. But so you obviously performed well. Your team had success, and I'm assuming that's what kind of led you to getting talked to by the BC Lions up in Canada.
Yeah. And we man, we was fortunate. We won the championship that year, 2009, and I believe it took place around maybe October, November or so. So right after that season, coming off there, you got again Ryan McMahon. He to Neil McAvoy up in BC, who was pretty much one of the general managers, scouting personnel guys, ended up pitching my name, and they have up there in the CFL where it's called the expanded roster. During the end of the season, they open up the roster for whether it's they can hold like I believe like 20 more guys or something like that, and you just bring them in for 2 days or maybe keep them for 2 weeks, and just the opportunity to see what you can do. And yeah, so right after the season, same year I came up there and called the end of the CFL season. We ended up signing there, whatever the contract was called, I forget, but I'm signing with the BC Lions from there right after that season.
Okay. What was, you're going from Spokane arena, then you're going, from a small field, then you go to Canada and their field is bigger. You only get 3 downs, receivers, there's 12 people on the field, receivers are running around everywhere. What was that like? What were your first impressions of Canadian football?
Yeah, I didn't quite know what I was getting into, but they do a good job when you get there teaching you little differences, little differences of rules and stuff. And obviously, you see the field much bigger, you know, um, 20-yard end zones versus 10 yards and stuff. So it's crazy. And then the wideness of the field and just the little rules of being able to kick the ball. They line up a yard off the ball. What Arena did prepare me for was the motion, which helped out a great deal. Obviously you can have all those guys in motion up there as well, even going lateral on the line of scrimmage. But it prepared me for that. So it was just relying on my athletic ability. I think it's kind of meant for guys of my size and speed. That can cover a little bit of ground as well. It's better suited for that type stuff. But it was just pretty much they want to cover guys so you can cover. Obviously covering the large amount of field and stuff. So the motion helped me a great deal. That would those guys off most when they get up there if they haven't played arena football or something like that. So that was big preparing me for that.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's a little different, but again, it looks fun, and I've always been intrigued by Canadian football. It's been great. But so you went and you signed a 2-week contract, basically is what you signed, and you obviously did something well, and you stuck around. Yeah. So what was that like? What did you do well? What did you do to get the coaches to notice you? And
again, I just probably a different monster being on the field, but just you want to come there and compete. It's when you don't really care who everybody else is, or you got to come there like you're ready to compete and dominate and literally willing to fight for whatever you're going to get in that situation, and that's what happened. Obviously you got to have the skill set too, but that their season they ended up making it to the playoffs that year. They stuck me around on the practice roster through the end of that year and stuff. And then I ended up signing a contract the following year, which gave me a fresh start getting into camp and stuff. And that's really where I proved, that I can play at that level and end up having a camp. It was for guy Mark Washington, who I ended up working for later, and then Wally Bono, who's the head coach there. It was the BC Lions, a great place of tradition and stuff, and players and having a great DBs. The Corey Banks, Dante Marsh, and Ryan Phillips. Who CFL guys know about and stuff. So, like, it was a great tradition to be into and just learning experience to start out with.
Yeah, that's awesome. What was it like signing that contract? And just all the time working at a bank, going to JC ball, then to tiny Idaho, playing arena ball in Spokane. Like a lot of time, you probably had a lot of times, like, when you were up, times you were down, thought football was over. And what was it like signing that, professional contract? I'm here, I made it, and now it's time to go to even put more work in.
Yeah. Trust me, it was a blessing, to say the least. And I think what helped me most is not having that transition period to that off season. Even in 2009, going right up there to the CFL. So I kind of didn't get that year or that beginning of the next year where I didn't know what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
Being up there, they gave me, pretty positive talks and stuff that, I'll be signing contract the next year, which ended up happening. So I knew I had something to work towards and look forward to. So it was easy to have my mind focused and putting in the grind and, putting the work. Now you had a goal, you knew what you were working for. So, that made it simple. It was just, you had to go through and starve a little bit to get to where you want to be. And it was a blessing just to sign right after the Arena Football League season from up there with the BC Lions. So
Yep. Yeah. And what you said right there, you have to starve a little bit. That's another good little liner right there, Stan. It's real good. Because it's so true. You do. To be successful, sometimes you gotta, take a risk or, take a chance on yourself and bet on yourself, and before the success comes from it. So, how long did you play for BC? Was it 2 or 3 years? How long were you there for?
about 3.5 years.
3.5 years.
Yeah, I was fortunate to again being with all those typecast. We had Travis Lula at quarterback. Had some big time offensive guys and stuff. G. Ward Simon, who's a Hall of Famer up there. A guy safety Baron Miles, who's a Hall of Famer up there. Those guys were in the league when I got there, and obviously had big names for themselves. But we know we're in the Grey Cup, which is their championship up there as well. So that was big. I did my first year, I ended up starting, but you're still learning the game. So, I was productive, made some plays, but still didn't get the essence of the, CFL game.
Mm-hmm.
And, going into my next year, that's when I really, had a full off season to work and grind, get the body tuned. And, I really thought I'd be an impact and get ready to go from there. But, after that year, ended up blowing my knee out, season ending knee injury about the second game into the year and stuff. So that was probably the most tragic thing that happened to me, up to that point and everything. So it was life changing from there.
Mm-hmm. When you say life changing, what do you mean by that?
Well, just obviously, playing sports my whole life, just that was all I knew. Even the distant, working the 9 to 5, you're miserable. That's not what suits you. Your mind's constantly on something else. And at that point, I had to sign a waiver that night. Well, first, I had to rushed in emergency surgery that night and sign a waiver that I could, possibly get my leg amputated. And that's probably, the first time that it hit me that, I probably would be without football, just from what the doctors were saying and, the severity of the injury and stuff. And so that's when it hits you, like really, what are you going to do? What's going to be the next step for you? And that's when I knew it'd be life changing, one way or the other, from where I would go from there pretty much.
Mm-hmm. Wow, did not know that. Dang. Um, so obviously surgery went well. You came out of it, and what was the process like? Rehab and just trying to stay focused on your goal and what you want to get back into. Get back into playing and all that stuff. What was that process like? Were you still up in Canada? Were you back home, or where were you?
Yeah, the night of the injury, actually I had two surgeries, but the night of the injury was the first surgery, and that was just to repair, pretty much the artery. The way that the knee hyperextended, it snapped the artery, which cut off my circulation, which is why I had to sign the papers originally, in case they couldn't, obviously save the leg or whatever. But just waking up and feeling my leg, that was, that's all I, obviously was praying for the whole time, and try to stay positive and just hoping that would come through. That I think that was the biggest thing. So once I woke up and the leg was there, I knew I would have another surgery down the road to pretty much to repair everything in the knee. Um, they compared it to like having been in a car accident, which is crazy from a football field. But football, I knew I wanted to rehab and get back. Just because it was only a couple examples of guys who have returned for those type of injuries. We had a guy in the CFL who's done it as well, by the name of Edwards, who returned from the injury and had a stellar career. But it's not a easy injury or anything when you're repairing every ligament in there, and then the artery is what set it back the most, because just losing your feeling and getting all your sensations back from the leg. But from there, I went to rehab and attempt to come back, but that was where my mindset was at once I got that second surgery and began rehabbing. And I was still up in Vancouver during the rehab and stuff. So took good care of me up there.
Wow. Wow. I'm just
Yeah.
trying to imagine that. That's crazy. You go into surgery, not sure what's going to happen when you wake up. That's a big blessing that it all worked out. So you rehab from assuming about a full year, and then you come back, you make full recovery, and you get to play.
I do and I don't. I end up my rehab. I end up leaving Vancouver shortly. Going back to the Arena Football League, I played with a guy named Andy Olson, who now was the head coach of the Spokane Shock, and they were in the true AFL versus the Arena Two League. He was the head coach there, so he offered me a position to come coach the defensive backs there. Obviously playing against him, he played receiver. We had our share of battles, and
Mhm.
through our battles, we kind of built a friendship, and through competitiveness and just, we were probably the two guys that got on each other's nerves, but we both respected each other, the way we played the game and stuff. So I was blessed enough, he offered me an opportunity to come coach the defensive backs there. And, I took that and I was like, okay, let's try this out. I knew I always just loved the game and the passion of being around it. So ended up probably cutting my rehab a little short and got right into coaching from there.
Okay.
So
Okay. So you got into coaching. Did you have a plan, early on that you wanted to be a coach? Or is it just kind of it was an opportunity and you wanted to still stick around the game? Um, what were your or answer first question is, did you always want to coach or did it just kind of just happen?
no, I think I always wanted to coach in the back of my head,
Yeah.
but I didn't want to be one of those guys that, one of those player coaches that, still worry about him playing, versus or watch me do this and stuff like that. But, I definitely did want to coach. I just didn't expect it to come that soon.
Hmm.
Um, and even, yeah, that opportunity, to taking the jump at it and stuff. But definitely always wanted to coach in the back of my head. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, what was it like going and coaching? First time, you're fresh off playing. What was it like going and coaching for the first time? A different perspective on things.
Yeah.
Mentality kind of changes a little bit. So, what was that like?
It was a blessing, on a smaller, obviously much smaller level, but it was professional football, the AFL back then. So it was big time. You're in there dealing with grown men, but fortunately I had the respect. It was some couple of guys I played with or competed against, so it was kind of that environment. But it was eye opening. From coaching, and now you're responsible for the whole back end, and Andy also he really trusted me and stuff as well. We had Cruisenberry, who was the, the DC there, big fella, but it was great. It was a good learning experience, and being able to be on the other side of it, and you had to kind of grow up and mature a little bit as well. So it was solid.
Yeah, for sure. I think what you just said too is how you have to grow up a little bit. I remember when I first got into coaching, my story is a little crazy, but I was playing basketball and I wanted to get into coaching in college. I got a chance to GA at my school where I was playing,
Yep.
and all of a sudden I get a position group, and it was just the safeties, but it was a bunch of guys who watched me play basketball, and we saw each other on campus, saw each other in the nightlife. Not that I was friends with a lot of them, but they saw me in that role. So I had to separate myself real quick to get to have any respect from them. And I just remember that was, it was a very quick learning experience. So I bet that, it's kind of the same thing for you. And again, like your mentality has to change because now you're in charge, responsible for these guys, and they better know what they're doing or it looks bad on you. So um,
No,
different.
exactly. And you're right, exactly. Even just, like you mentioned, the off the field stuff, the only thing that probably a little different, you're dealing with college students
Yeah.
versus now I was dealing with grown men. So that kind of probably brought us together. Even some of the guys on the team, we had been through some things together, and, they knew what type of person I was, so that kind of helped out, and being grown men as well,
Oh, yeah.
to those things. But no, you definitely have to, like you said, set yourself apart, and let them know that you're serious about your craft, and you actually do have knowledge to help them, whether it's play faster or basically be a better football player at the end of the day. So
For
for
sure.
sure.
For sure. I bet that was awesome. So you coached there for a year. You're like, okay, I'm assuming you're like, okay, I'm into this coaching thing now. It's what I want to do. Is that was how your mentality was, or did you want to go back and try to play again, or where was your mindset at this point?
I was kind of in between. I probably knew I didn't rehab the way I probably should have, But in my mind, I kind of want to just, against all odds, I can come back and play, and obviously still young enough for his age and stuff. But coaching probably took took the lead in that. The following off season, I believe we were heading into spring ball or whatever during March time, and then that's when I pretty much got the offer to come up to Idaho State and be the defensive backs coach there. So it once I took that move, I kind of put it in the back of my mind, like, yeah, I'm probably done playing. And I was just fortunate enough that I could just live a normal life and work out and stuff. So I hold on to that. Even nowadays working out in the gym, it hits a little different for me because it's just not about staying in shape. It's about I possibly could not be able to do this if things would have went south. So
Yep.
it takes on a little different role for me nowadays.
Oh, for sure, that's awesome. I'm happy you're able to do stuff and still golf. Like
Hey, no doubt.
golf, Now I know. Now I know why I don't like to walk. I got that bad knee. So you get the opportunity. You go from Moscow, Idaho, to Spokane, to Canada, up in BC, and now you go back to Pocatello, Idaho. Now you're in the college ranks, no more professionals. You got, they're a lower level Division I, but still a Division I school. What was that experience like? And just, it's just different than anything you've kind of been around so far. So talk us through that a little bit.
Well, it was, it was I think I learned so much that first year, just, for one, the head coach, his name was Mike Kramer. He was unique, if you're going to use the word, keep you on your toes, keep you guessing, it's just spontaneous. That's how he lived. And that's how, obviously the office and stuff was ran. So you always had to be on your toes. But, from that perspective, and then just, it was a different monster. That first year was probably, it was definitely probably my worst coaching in ever, just going from dealing with grown men and the expectations, and then dealing with kids at the end of the day. They want to say they're grown, but kids at the end of the day who still have a lot of maturing to do, a lot of world to understand, a lot of simple things to understand, and just not, it didn't quite click initially. And also going into situation, I didn't build that type. I didn't have the luxury of having that type of relationship with guys. It wasn't guys that I recruited or anything like that. I was just obviously coming into a situation in spring ball. So it was a great learning experience, just from how to handle children and kids at the end of the day. I was probably my expectations probably too huge on those guys. And that comes with relationships, and also you want to be successful, and that deflecting of how you come off and the urgency and stuff. That first year I learned a great amount of deal, and it was a great learning experience, to say the least.
Yeah, I bet it was. I can't. What's Pocatello like?
Pocatello is very, very similar to Pullman. You got your Yellowstone Road, the one, major road that run through there. You got the Salt Lake Airport, which is probably like Spokane. You got to drive hour and a half, 2 hours out of there. You have your little surrounding areas like, it's this college town just like in Pullman. Not too many, you got your Walmart, got your couple mainstream restaurants. Everybody know why you're there. Is very similar to Pullman here. You have, Salt Lake 2 hours away. You have the big Utah University. You have BYU. You have the Utah State surrounding areas and stuff. So it holds a lot of similarities being out here in Pullman.
Okay. Interesting. So from there, you're there for about 3 years, right? 3 seasons. And then you get the opportunity to go back into Canadian football, go back to BC. How, again, it's a different transition. You're going again from coaching college age kids. Now you're going back to professional athletes, back from the professional level. Were you excited about the opportunity? Go back where you played, get back up in there. And, how I bet that decision easy for you to go back?
Initially it wasn't, I kind of knew I loved coaching college ball. But the decision was more, I feel like I had exhausted where I was at, as far as learning the scheme and, just maximizing my ability and when you kind of outgrow a situation, so it was time for me to take another step, out on my own and see what I can do. And fortunately, it was a great situation I was going into. defensive back coach. He was now the defensive coordinator, Mark Washington. The legendary Wally Bono was still there. He was the head coach, general manager. So I knew that I would learn so much there, from great men and great mentors and stuff. And obviously, to be at a professional level as well, lower obviously than the NFL, but get back to just up there. The beautiful thing about professional ball, all you're doing is coaching ball. If a cat go out and get DUI, yeah, depend on your relationship with them, but it's not like you're responsible for that. He's a grown man, and you're literally just there coaching ball. So it's great from that point of view.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's something I've been a part of, but I know people who are there now and just how much they love it, and it's just different. So you ended up being there for a few years. Did you can talk about it, but did you guys get let go, or what kind of happened up there?
Yeah, pretty much got fired on the day off. No, but no, pretty much Wally Bono, who was obviously the general manager and the head coach, he was going to retire. He already had planned on retiring. He ended up releasing the title of general manager. So that brought in a new general manager where he had held both titles of that and the head coach previously.
Mm-hmm.
So the general manager, obviously Wally Bono being legendary coach, the general manager Ed Hervey decided to hire Wally Bono as the head coach. And even Wally Bono was talking about retiring previously from the following year, but he ended up sticking around another year, which gave us another year him being the head coach under a new general manager and stuff like that. So now once Wally Bono did retire the following year, Ed Hervey brought in his own guys, head coaching, and from the professional how that go. Everybody wanted their own guys who they brought in there, and that's when we ended up being let go, and a new turnover of coaches and stuff ended up being up there at BC. So yeah.
I got you. So what was that like? Now you're basically living out a dream, coaching professional ball, a place where you played, had good connection and ties to. You get let go, you're out of a job. Everyone knows in coach profession, if you don't get fired, you're going to get fired soon. So you better be ready. But what was it like? Because being fired is not fun. I've been there. Buddies of mine have been there. It's just you have to have the right mindset for it. And I'm assuming the whole injury you had, it helped with creating that mindset, because it's just the same thing. You get down, you gotta work your way back up. Do it in a different way now, but um, it can just be hard, and you feel like you let people down and a bunch of other things. So, how did you handle that situation? What ended up leading you to get your next job? Um, and yeah, I just want to know about that experience.
It was, like you said, that's part of the coaching world, and it was my first time probably obviously being cut from San Diego, probably the only time where I didn't choose to leave somewhere, where, excuse me, but I knew it was inevitable once they brought in a new head coach and stuff. And from there, so it was more a little bit of waiting time that was, probably more irking. What are they going to do? The DC, Mark Washington, who, probably should have got the head coaching job there. He was up for interviewing. So, we stayed positive throughout that whole process. Nothing on his part. He probably killed the interview, and, probably still to this day, I feel deserved that job. But, it was still that little bit of glimpse, that little bit of hope that, if he became the head coach, obviously he would retain the staff, the defensive side of the ball and stuff, and, maybe revamp the offense a little bit, but go from there. So it was just more of the process that was just irking, of not knowing and nothing really being in your control at that
Mm-hmm.
point. But,
Yeah.
once the writing was on the wall, Coach Washington, he didn't end up getting the head coaching job, ended up going to another guy. But once that was on the wall, you kind of knew, the steps in it, how it would trickle down, and the next moves from there. But yeah, it was just like anything, when you get let go, you got to evaluate, maybe still take a look in the mirror, what could I have done in the situation, maybe where, I could have been put up for that position or whatever. But, you just got to evaluate and move on, access it, and, keep grinding and keep going,
Yeah,
figure out the next move from there,
for sure. Yeah, I agree. So what was that next move?
Next move. And from there, what did I end up doing? Oh, end up going JUCO ball. Yeah, I spent off season. And then I'm getting a call for a junior college in Northern California, Cabrillo College in Aptos, and it was playing JUCO and coaching JUCO, it's the same monster, the same knuckleheads, that you're dealing with, and it's, it's a journey in itself. But it was probably the craziest time and craziest coaching. We done everything from cook breakfast, prepare breakfast burritos to picking guys up from the house, and it was the whole JUCO lifestyle that you're invested to, and but it was great. I ended up being a defensive coordinator there, which was a great learning experience, and really gave me a little bit of a foundation and to really test things that I've learned and my values and things that I believe in and stuff. And the JUCO ball is not you don't have 10, 11 coaches and all the support staff. It was literally probably about 5 of us and stuff. 3 guys on defense, including the head coach. So it was really, you really had to take it by by its horn and get ready to go within that perspective. So yeah.
Yeah. I want to dive into that just a little bit because, like I said, one of my best friends, Coach Dameron, who's been on this podcast, he is a head coach at junior college, and he always tells me he loves it. He understands like the it's not the most glamorous. You don't get all the support staff and help, but he says it's the most natural form of football out there because you run what you run. You don't have a ton of time to practice it, and guys are going to show up and they want to show up. You don't have all these coaches to do exotic stuff. So you got to be very simple and base, and you just get it. You just play football, in a very simple form. And he loves it. He goes on. He's an offensive. He's been both. He's the offensive coordinator right now, and he's like, yeah, we're gonna run power 25 times a game, and it's just what we're gonna do. And they know it. And I'm not gonna change it up. It's gonna be power right, power left. And play action offense. And he loves it for that sense of it because it just keeps it very pure in the natural form. So do you agree with that? And then what was it like, whether you want to say it or not, you're a defense coordinator now. You get to talk the whole defense. It's your show. Do it the way you want to do it. And then how was that experience?
No doubt. And I 100% hear what you're saying about, whether those guys, they're stuck in their ways or whatever it is, or, there's some truth to it. It's JUCO ball, keep it simple. Depending on where you're at, that's where it gets tricky. Do you have the athletes to run what you want to run? Yep. Are you guys just better athletically than teams dominating? And that's where it kind of got tricky, in that sense. But it's an experience that I wouldn't trade for the world. Just grinding. I believe, JUCO is a great thing. It's the rawest form of it. Kids that are hungry, trying to get out, most of the time have a purpose. You might have kids that are not just good enough to play at the next level, but you get it from all facets. Kids that just need some guidance, that maybe the streets calling them or whatever, and they're struggling between those two things, and don't understand what it takes to get to the next level to actually get a scholarship. And so it's the rawest form, and you can't trade that, amount of experience. You can't trade that at all. But it was clutch from that perspective. So yeah.
That's awesome. I think I agree. I think JUCO is a place, all coaches can have impact, but I believe JUCO is a place where you can have a ton of impact and really, in a sense, save kids if you do it the right way. And that's why I think it's special, just like for any football, but just helping them get where they want to go. Whether it's a kid going D1 or even a kid that gets an NAIA scholarship or a D3, just so they can go and play and chase their dream. I think it's very important. So then just real quick, you were there. What happened and what led you to coming to Washington State and getting on with this new staff here?
Well, we had a pretty successful team there at Cabrillo, but I don't think, honestly, not sure how much that really played in it. Basically what it came down to, just like in this business, connections. And speaking of stand-up cats, Jay Rich, pretty much I had formed a relationship. He was actually with the BC Lions as well, in the camp with us, and we met through there back in the playing days. So, we knew exactly who each other, to the core, and, growing up versus the coach, Jay Rich and Coach Franks. We knew each other from then, and obviously him being from the home and stuff. But pretty much he probably is the reason why, opportunity at Washington State. Obviously now everything else had to check out and stuff as well. But just his word and him being a stand-up cat, that's how I got the opportunity here at Washington State. And pretty much from there.
Yeah, and Yeah, Jay Rich is the man. I'm trying to get him on the pod as well. We'll see what
Hey,
happens because he
great time, you man. Just tell me, you know.
sometimes, but he
Yeah,
never did back in the day with Coach Rich, and I can talk about him forever because he impacted me, gave me a chance to interview for a GA spot at Wyoming, and
yeah.
I used to always go up to Wyoming, work camps, and I'd go sit down with him, and we wouldn't even really talk ball. We would just talk, because he's very good at impacting young men and helping them become men, and that's what we'd sit down and talk about. And he'd give me all this advice on what to do in my meeting rooms, and I would go back fall camp and I'd try it all, and I'd do it everything he told me to do. I would try to do it, and it was, and all of it stuck. It was great. He's he's an awesome individual. So, but all right. So I know I've taken a lot of your time. I kind of want to tie this up. You've been around a lot of different coaches and you've had a different experience at different levels of football. And now you're coaching guys. You've been around a lot of different leaders and different leadership styles. What do you think is the most effective leadership form of leadership style? Like there's servant leadership, autocratic, dictatorship, really, and those are just terms, but what do you think is the best way to lead?
Probably, I definitely probably agree more towards the servant side of it. I do believe leadership, it has to come through you being an example as well. Whether you being in the fire directly or have been in the fire, it comes from knowledge as well. But I think, like anything with leadership, you got to have great followers as well. So I think you have to have followed before as well in order to be a leader and going through it yourself. But yeah, I don't believe in dictatorship or anything like that. Leading is about also allowing whoever's following you to find their path too.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's not going to see it how a leader might see it, but all you need to do at the end of the day is get everyone headed in the right direction. Some guys might take a right versus a left, but long as everyone's heading in the same direction, I feel that's what leadership's all about. And allowing guys to find themselves through the process and giving them the tools to be successful. That's what it's all about in life, and that's what it comes down to for leadership, for me at least.
Oh yeah, and that was very well put. And what you said was, as a leader, you're there to help them find their path, and everybody's path is different. Um, and we got to be okay with that. We're just there to help and guide them to get to it. So, I'm glad you said servant leadership because I'm a big fan and I'm a true believer in servant leadership. I've written papers in the past and studied it, and it's something that's very dear to me and what I believe in. So, how would you define servant leadership? You might have just said it, but how would you define it? If you had two sentences, how would you define servant leadership?
Who 2 cents.
Two sentences.
Leading by example while catering to the needs of the followers. I think you got to be a leader also. You got to be able to blend and you know deviate your plan as well, depending on the group or the guy, the kid, whatever it is that you're dealing with too. Everyone doesn't take to the same type of leadership. Some guys you might have to be tougher on. Some guys, you might have to show them. Some guys you might have to hold their hands walking it through. Some guys you just got to allow them to find themselves. So I just think, out of leadership, you got to be well rounded as well, and that's what it comes down to. You're catering to your follower or whoever you're trying to guide get into a position where they're trying to be at, get into.
Oh yeah, no, you're exactly right, Stan, and I love it because I think a lot of people when they hear the term servant, you think of like a soft person just laying themselves down, and but it's not about that. Being a servant means, like you said, sometimes a kid, you got to be hard on them, you got to coach them hard, and you got to coach them hard not on the field but off the field too because they need that. But at the same time, putting them before yourselves is what being a servant leader is all about, and I think that's what most coaches strive to do because that's why we're in this business. So is to help young men be great and figure out their calling. So,
Uh,
well, Stan, man, I appreciate you. I know I've taken a lot of your time.
hey,
Um,
all good, all good. Plenty of time. We, not much going on.
but okay, last question. I know I said last question, but last question. In 10 years from now, where do you want to be in your career? if everything works out the way your mind does, I know we're both believers and it doesn't always work out that way, but in your mind, in 10 years, where would you want to be in your career, in life?
You already probably know my point of view and stuff like that. But I don't try to dictate or predict the future or anything like that. But just hopefully being more of a blessing to others. That's what I want to be at the end of the day. Whether it's young men, at the end of the day, we coach a game for a living. There's so much more that goes into that, but at the end of the day, that's what we're doing. So, we're blessed to be out here mentoring young men. So I just hope I'm in a position where my family's taken care of and where I can continue to do that. And, it doesn't feel like you're going in the office, you're not going into work, and, you're surrounded by a great group of men and you're able to build up another group of men, the next generation as well. So, at the end of the day, you can't beat that. So I just hope I'm in a position to do that and continue to be a blessing to others and continue to get blessed myself,
Mm-hmm. You guys heard it first. That's why Stan's on this podcast, because he's built different now, and he has a great mindset, and I truly believe you're going to be successful. I said that the other day to you, and your career is going to take off, and I'm fired up to see where it goes, because you are going to impact people and young men, and not even just young men, people in the building. We get impact every day too. So, but again, Stan, I appreciate you being on the podcast, 3-1 podcast here, and I'm thankful I get to see you every day, most days. So
I appreciate you, Mac. And obviously, stand up, catch yourself, and this is great. Keep doing it, and obviously you're headed down the right road yourself. Appreciate you.
I'm just gonna keep following you. Maybe one day, you'll hire me. Who never knows? But but all right, Stan. Again, I appreciate you guys and everyone out there listening. Thank you again for listening to another episode of the 3-1 podcast, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah.